right, buddy, here we are, Friday.
Hey,
beautiful Friday morning.
March 8th, the year 2024. Welcome aboard, everybody, to the Crushing Iron Podcast. We are episode 754.
Yeah, we are. I couldn't be happier to be at 754.
Me either. I'm having a good day. It's been a pretty solid week. A little gloomy today, but you know what? Daylight saving time is coming, so we can all get readjusted. And you're going to wake up, and guess what? The sun's going to be out. You can get out. No more excuses about not wanting to run in the dark or get up and ride in the dark. Excuses gone. Warmer weather on its way. Race season upon us. More daylight. You're welcome. It's time. And I was actually going to get pumped up and ready to give a quick race review, race recap of watching the WTCS Abu Dhabi race, which is a sprint distance Olympic for Olympic athletes and the point system because it's an Olympic year. And I woke up, I had my world clock set, making sure I could figure out exactly what time it is in Abu Dhabi, and woke up at 6:00 right on time to see the women's start race. Both loaded field for the women and loaded field for the men. All the big guns are there. People trying to vie for Olympic points. Gwen Jorgensen for an American trying to make her way back and see if she can qualify for Paris this year. Blumenfeld, Hayden Wild, Alex Yee, all the top guns were there, and I pop on Triathlon Live, which is, again, it'd be my yearly suggestion to get the subscription for the entire year. I think it's $70 for all the races and recaps. Anyway, and I couldn't find it. And all it said was, "Hey, upcoming T100 race in Miami." I'm like, I didn't get up early to watch that, to watch people ride around on a NASCAR track. Where's my race? To go back to the website, canceled the whole weekend.
What?
They canceled every race from age group to the para athletes events to the mixed relay. They canceled everything because I guess they were going to get a torrential downpour, which is something that they obviously rarely ever get there. So they had to prep the streets and do things. So yeah, they scrapped the whole entire event. So I'm thinking to myself, man, what? I'm sure some of them were having a huge, not pity party, but super frustrated. You go through a time change, you make all that travel, you're trying to get points, you peak for this race and you taper for it. And all of a sudden you wake up and you got nothing. And just how and crazy that is. But anyway, I was pumped and ready to do that. Tomorrow is the first PTO T100 race. That's at the Miami International Speedway. It's a pretty solid list. It's not fantastic. I don't think any of them are going to be fantastic just because they're asking you to race so much. But it's a halfway decent event. My boy Brownlee's going to be there. Hopefully he can actually finish a race and show that he is not done and not too old. But yeah, racing season's here. But I was ready to give a nice little recap of that and give some feedback on what I saw. But yeah, I didn't. I got up, had some coffee, hopped into Training Peak, got in a run, and now I'm here talking to you and ready to deliver our end of the week podcast.
Damn, Brownlee's getting too old?
Nah, people say,
he feel like he was peaking a year. This sport can really take it out of you.
Yeah, he just can't stay healthy. So Alistair Brownlee is one of my all-time favorite athletes. He just can't stay healthy. So it'd be really interesting to see what he does at this distance. I think it's tomorrow midday. I think the men go first and the ladies go last. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what the I'm going to watch some of it in between the 3 hockey games we have to sit through tomorrow in Lincoln, Nebraska. But should be exciting. Again, it's just kind of the kickoff. Then you got Puerto Rico 70.3 the following week, and then the list keeps on going and growing. And in his race season, we are here. It's your first time tuning in. Welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the Triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. In terms of Abels, we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, and not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner-level triathletes looking at very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite-level amateurs trying to get back to world championships and everyone in between from all over the globe. And we use the feedback loop we have with them and Training Peaks emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also like to utilize our Facebook group. We'll be doing more of that here coming up. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question. We'll let you right in Awesome people, fantastic community, solid resource in a sport that is oftentimes way overcomplicated, way too confusing, and is a solid space to get actionable info from pretty amazing people. And we go in there at least once a month and do a bit of a Q&A with the people that contribute to that community and do the best we can to answer all their questions live in the podcast. But that is it. We have no sponsors. We have no ads. But we do have an agenda, and it's an important one. And that's to do our best to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah. Before we get into the topic, I went home to Beloit this week, and one of the things I did was go to see my Uncle Kenny, who is 99 years old now. Jeez. And I walk in, and the dude is sharp as a tack, man. And it just sort of gave me this really good feeling, and I don't know, I just feel grateful. He was sitting there kind of in his recliner, and he does these exercises with the automatic recliner. He goes into his legs up and down the whole time. And he's just still cooking. The dude is hilarious. I mean, he remembers like everything. Of course, sort of short-term memory, like all of us as we get older, kind of goes away. But he remembers everything. And it's funny. He was in the used car business his whole life. And so he was always a wheeler dealer. And, he made, I think he made quite a bit of money during his time. But it was funny because we were talking about, I asked him if he was still day trading and all that stuff because he used to do that. He goes, nah, Mike. He goes, I'm done with all that. He goes, but you know what they say about money? I said, what? He said, you can't take it with you. And he goes, you know what I say about that? You know what I tell him? Then I ain't going. So it was just
like fantastic.
But just to see him like rolling, I mean, the guy's just he's something else, man. But it's just kind of made me feel happy and grateful, and
he ain't going.
You can't take it with you. But still talking about the ladies and the whole 9 yards. He's something else. But
oh gosh, man, that's fantastic. If you can't take it with you, I ain't going.
But I just think the fact that he was doing that leg exercise thing with this chair, I just thought that was awesome. He's just
at 99. It's unbelievable.
You're still, he knows you got to work it. And still walking around and going down and have lunch and dinner and all that stuff. So anyway, I just thought that was a fun story, and I think it's just I don't know.
Go for it.
No, I just think life, like sometimes we get all wrapped up in shit and, we lose focus on being grateful for things. And it was just a great reminder, that, life can be lived, and he's still going. It's inspirational to me, especially because it's family.
It's crazy to think about living that long to me.
I know.
I mean, double what I've already lived, plus 12 years, 13 years. God.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Real. Kudos to him, and kudos to anybody else who's out there making their way towards 99 or 100. It is crazy to think about, but yeah, it's always good to get reminders like that about to be, we do. I think everybody tends to, because things are so, that's like one of the biggest downsides of society now is that everything is so accessible that everything seems immediate or personal or applicable to you specifically, versus like, speaking of like, doubling your age, like going back to when I was 10, 12, 13, you got all information from the newspaper. Mm-hmm. So like you weren't saddled and overrun with all this information, and most of it's bad. Like either one, bad information like isn't untrue, or two, just not good information. So and so is losing their job. So and so died. So and so has cancer. So and so has this. Like you're just inundated with so much and so much stress in life that you just consume it rarely ever is there, you come, oh, this is a good feel article. It's just like a YouTube video of a dog. It's like the pick me up, and it just kind of wears on you, and then it changes your mood and attitude, which is, I think, another reason why like anxiety levels and depression are at like an all time high, is the internet and news and the fact that we can get to everything true or untrue and actually, like valid to our life is it's a 24/7 thing versus, when you're totally unplugged and you just didn't get much of anything. You had to like, meet people or see people in person to get news. It really just it's interesting how it's changed um, the world and changed people just by the mere fact that we do have so much information right at our fingertips, which sure has it pushed us into being able to do crazy things as a human race. Absolutely. But like all things in life, advancements and technology are never without huge drawbacks and negativity or negative effects that it has on, I think, people. And that's, I think, just, kind of where we're at right now. But that's kind of honestly what the topic about is today. Is about, decide being, we do, you and I talk a lot about, having not the oldest, but, old dogs in the sport, having been around a long time and started off, going by feel and understanding things long before it was, training peaks and data and power meters and even heart rate monitors and even GPS watches. I mean, I've talked you and I both go down the, at least I do go down the, back when I started, it was, I was printing off training plans off my printer. I was going out running for time, and then to see how far I ran, I got in my car and looked at this and zeroed out the speedometer to figure out, like, how far I ran. Riding on, my dumb trainer, which I still have, and not having anything to go by, no power, no nothing, just straight up effort. And how you look at, the advancements that have been made, but how out of touch people have become with what they truly, I think most people now have just a lot of people have a lack of confidence in their ability, or to me, it's not necessarily their lack of confidence in their ability. I think it ultimately stems from their lack of confidence in making a decision that's going to affect their ability, because we become so overrun with metrics and data and charts and analytics and information, right? All these experts say this, all these articles say this, all these things say this, or, all people say, but ultimately, and we tell athletes all the time, is your best, even if you have a coach, you don't have a coach, you can be your best coach, your best assistant coach, because ultimately you are the only person that knows you. That's it. Period. The best coach on the planet, and they'll all tell you this, and they've all said this on numerous podcasts before, is that a plan is just a plan, and that no one can predict how you're going to feel each and every day. And while you can make guesses based on experiences, based on, prior sessions or prior training load, you can kind of go by overall best practices when it comes to, what you should do or what you should not do in training. Ultimately, I think every athlete should be encouraged to take the bull by the horns on each day and make the best decision that they think they can make. And I think what happens a lot of time is that why you don't see this is two things. One is so many athletes, don't know what the answer is, and so they want to ask 20 different people, search the internet for 50 different answers, right? And instead of doing like their own inner work on what do they really think and why do they think it, and is that an actionable, feeling, right? And does it make sense to them? If it makes sense to them, then why does it matter, right? Kind of going with your gut and what it's telling you. And the other side is that I think we're so many athletes are so fearful to make one wrong decision that, because they think that every session is the end all be all. And if they miss one session, then it's going to ruin their race. That if they have to skip a day, it's going to miss one of their races. It's going to mess up one of their races. If they bonk a workout, it's going to ruin their season. That we put so much stock into each and every session, which isn't the reality of the situation. I mean, I just had, kind of two similar conversations earlier, or one today, one yesterday, about, the guy was kind of venting in the email about how stressful work has gotten, and he's just getting super frustrated, having to get up early to train. I said, listen, man, I said, doing 7 to 8 really, really good sessions over the course of the week and feeling really good about it and not being stressed, is going to make you a lot fitter than trying to cram in 12 to 13 sessions and feeling like shit for most of them. But athletes get so paranoid and so bent out of shape about each and every session with this. It's cumulative, right? Same thing goes for an athlete that had or earlier this week asked about trying to do a bike or adding a run because he was trying to get this in. He was taking his son to an NBA basketball game. His one can be home late. I was like, dude, just take a day off. Who cares? Who cares? Right? The thing is that most athletes, and this is like one of the most common things that athletes will say about, getting coaching, is that relieves stress, is that it allows other people to make the decision for you. But a lot of times, and frankly, I know it pisses some of the athletes off that I work with sometimes, is I'll just say, I'm not answering that question. You answer it. Because, and you might think, oh, well, aren't they paying you to coach them? Yes, they are. But what I want out of them is for them to be able to function as their own athlete and me to help guide them along the way. It's not to free feed them and spoon feed them every answer and remove any critical thinking and make them a robot that cannot think, cannot adapt, cannot adjust, cannot think on the fly, cannot, come up with answers on their own. That's no way to make, because then what happens when you're not there? Because the one day that you're not there, guess what? Is race day. The most important day for them. You are not available. From the start of the gun to the cross the finish line, you are unavailable. Period. You are not going to be by their side. You're not going to be swimming alongside them. You're not going to be, on the sidecar, in the motorcycle, cruising along on the bike. You might see them on the run for what, about 20 seconds? And what are you going to say? Pick up the pace. If they would, they could, right? You might say slow down. You might say good job. But that is the longest day in their own head. No music, no television, no Zwift, no training partners, no buddies, no opportunity to get off the bike, no into the pool, no coach, no what's my coach. It's just you. And so if you don't help train an athlete like that and you only want athletes to come to you for answers, then you're doing your athletes a disservice. And I just think it's a lost skill that, and you might think, oh, that's not customer service. And the service you provide as a coach is to prepare your athletes best for race day. And that is not by enabling them to not critically think and make decisions on their own. You can encourage them, right, to be smart about it. But be smart about things doesn't mean always taking a day off. It doesn't mean always going easy. It just means be smart about it. Think about it. Think it through, because you're also asking me to give you an answer via text from across the country when I haven't even laid eyes on you today. I'm not inside your body. I can't feel you. I can't tell you exactly what I think and feel because of what I see, because I don't. I can just give you the best piece of advice, which is what I would give to myself. Just be smart about it. Oh, okay, that sounds good. Done. And that there is ultimately no season-ending wrong answer. Yes, can you have, some pretty significant pain in your foot, and I'm like, all right, be smart about it. I would just simply say, don't do anything, go to the doctor. Yes, you can ruin your season by going out and trying to do a track workout. Sure, you can do that. But outside of that is you have to learn a lot of these things on your own, because if you don't, then you're honestly, it's like helicopter parenting. There's a lot of helicopter coaches out there hovering all the time. Don't do this, don't do that. I'm like, you're never going to let your athletes learn anything. They got to succeed on their own. They got to fail on their own, and they got to learn to do things, or they're never going to be able to reach their full potential. You got to let them go. You got to watch things happen. You got to let them fail. You got to let them succeed, because ultimately they want the ownership of that to fall on who? To fall on them. I don't want athletes to be solely dependent on me to make them the most successful athlete. It is a partnership, and to get the most out of it, you have to push athletes that direction, because when the race day is over with, I don't want them to look at me. I want them to look in the mirror and think, man, I'm really, really proud of that day and what I did today. Yeah, they might want to give you credit or not, but that's what you should want as a coach, not credit for their accomplishment, but you should see that in their face when they come across the finish line is, yeah, like, I'm so proud of myself. And if you're pushing your athletes to do that, then I think you're also challenging them to make hard, independent decisions. Each and every, it's very much like parenting. But you have to let them, make mistakes and learn from things. You can't always be the one to try and sweep it and fix, or they're never going to learn how to do things on their own. Again, like in the most important day of the year for them, which is race day.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges, and I can only speak for myself, because that's the other thing, right? I spend a lot of time trying to get in tune with my body, my mind, and then see how that translates into training or what I'm going to do today. And that's why I always try to get people to sort of calm down their chatter, because there's so many things out there, and I fall into this trap all the time where I'm like, all right, well, I'm just, like you're scrolling through Instagram or whatever, and you see a new workout program. You're like, yeah, that looks like exactly what I need. And then you go down that route, and then it's like, I've gotten these things. I've done it before where I've ordered something, and I've been like, yeah, this is like, I know this already. And I'm just spending money to almost reinforce what I already know. So I think about it in terms of when you kind of step away from that and you do calm your mind, and I think we know a lot more answers than we realize. So if you're not, reading the latest posts of every single, triathlete out there and kind of what they're doing and all these kind of things, I mean, that's easy to just sort of kind of go down those roads a little bit. So as a coach, I'm always trying to do the same thing you're talking about, which is help them make their own decisions, right? Because it's just, I mean, if nothing else, it's really good to be able to bounce things around. And I think, I'm sure you've felt this feeling before, but like sometimes you're like, well, I was thinking about and this and this and this, and as soon as you say it, you realize it's kind of dumb, or it's a dumb solution, and then someone looks at you like, what? Yeah, you're right. I don't know how we go down certain roads and things like that, but I do think it's really about being distracted and not kind of centered on who we want to be and what we know is right for ourselves. And it just becomes overwhelming, and if you just kind of like, I mean, we can always take it back. It seems like we can always take it back to, your recovery system. And it's sort of like, just be here today, feel how you are, and see what makes sense, and just do something and do it, in a way that's not going to lay you down for a few days or whatever the case may be. But coaching is interesting like that, because I just have a lot of faith in people, so it's like, why am I, necessarily greater at things? I've been through a lot of experiences, and that's where I'm going to be going. If somebody says, hey coach, I just added 6 races in a row, you think I can pull that off? And I'm like, yeah, I do think you can pull it off, but why would you want to do that?
That's right.
It's like, what's at the core here? What are you really trying to do?
Yep.
And what are you trying to prove, or whatever the case may be? And I'm like, all right, if you do that, then this race has to be, something you got to really take easy, or whatever the case, you try to figure it out. But in the end, I don't like to tell people that they can't do stuff because it's their life, but I can just be like, well, I don't know if that's maybe the best idea because of this. And that's the stuff that we've been through so much together, and through coaching and with so many different athletes and experiences, and, being around hundreds of races and things like that, that we can certainly offer perspective. And I think that's the most important thing is, right, it's sort of like, I don't want to tell you no, but I want you to tell me why you think it's a good idea. That was one of my my best friend's dads growing up. He was a successful businessman, and in fact, though, but I never totally liked this approach, but he was always the contrarian, right? And it's not a bad approach, sort of, where if you tell me you're going to do something, I'm going to say that's a bad idea right away. And then the point isn't to say I just want you to convince me that you really thought it through. And I think that's what you're talking about here, is like making your own decisions and really kind of thinking them through before you just sort of throw it out. And, that's the other thing, right? It's like you see something out there and you're like, I think I want to try this. And you really don't give it true investigation, or you don't really think about how it may impact things or whatever. And you just, there's a lot of ideas flying around out there in the world. And I think sometimes it's just important to step away from that and really kind of go back to your core, because I always feel like I know the right solution for me if I can just calm down enough and really think it through. It's not like I need external wisdom all the time. I remember going to bookstores. I need to go get a book. And then you go, or it's like you go to Amazon now and you end up ordering like 7 books. And it's like, what is that? And they all show up like a week later and you're going, why did I order that? You know what I mean? It's just that impulse that I think we fall trapped to a lot of times.
I think that one of the biggest points that you made is something you've always been great at is you should know and feel like you're on your own right track. Because the truth of the matter is the more people you ask, the more, Facebook posts to random ass people where you ask opinions, right? The farther away you get from really knowing and understanding what you feel in your gut is true and is right. Because then you start to get tainted with other people's opinions who have no idea who you even are.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what you're feeling. Don't know anything about you from Adam. But you're, maybe that's the way to do it. That's why so many athletes suffer from just straight up, training ADHD and distraction. They can't do their own thing. They get so distracted. So and I'll give an example of what I was, the kind of genesis behind the topic is that, I talked about earlier this week, I was sick last week, but I was feeling, a lot better. I tracked my recovery with my Whoop, and I was, my resting heart rate's back down, respiratory rate back down, HRV is up, just feeling really, really good. And so I hopped into our group chat with all of our coaches. There's 10, 12 people on there. And I said, hey, hypothetical. Not hypothetical. I just said, I have an athlete that I wanted to test on Friday, so today, but that if they do test Friday, they can only test in the afternoon. And traditionally, this athlete tests really poorly in the afternoon. Not poorly, or excuse me, reverse that. The athlete would have to test early in the morning. And this athlete is always lower on power, higher in heart rate in the morning versus when they ride in the afternoon. They're just always a better cyclist and all around puts down better power and lower heart rate in the afternoon. Always, it's been like that way for years. But they can only do it on Friday morning, which is the schedule. They can't do it next week. And they're, 6 weeks out from a race. But they're coming off a little bit of sickness, but they say they feel better. They would like to do it today because they can actually do it in the afternoon. What do you do? What do you tell them as a coach? Got tons of feedback, right? Everybody had an opinion. Definitely push it. Have them do it in the morning on Friday, give them some more days of rest, and then adjust the power based on what you normally see, right? Do they really need to do the test? You can adjust things manually. How serious was the illness? And if it was not that serious, then carry on. So it was 8, 9 different opinions. And I would say 90% of them were, and this was on Tuesday when I was asking, was don't test today. Everybody, don't test, don't test, don't test, don't test, don't test. One person, Mary. Well, if it was just a man cold or allergies, test. And so it was overwhelmingly don't test. Well, what they didn't know was that athlete was me. And I already made up my mind. I was testing because I woke up and I felt really good. And I told myself the night before, Monday night, I said, if I wake up and I'm still trending in the right direction and I feel really good, I can do a workout I can test in the afternoon. And yes, if it doesn't feel good out of the gate, like if my heart rate is just unreasonably high or my legs feel like rocks, then you know what I can do? I can abort. I can just fall right back into my normally scheduled ride. But I had this feeling, right, which was, and I think everybody has these, right, where you just feel like all 3 major components of what needs to happen for a good workouts falls into place. Mentally, I was dialed in. Emotionally, I was in a good space, and physically, I felt good. That they don't always line up like that, right? A lot of days you line up and you feel great physically, but you've had a mental and emotional, like, roller coaster of a day, and so you just don't feel like working out, right? Or vice versa. You're mentally and emotionally, you feel awesome, you hop on the bike or go out for a run, you feel like trash. But I had kind of been psyching myself up for it. Like, you're gonna do this and it's gonna go well. And it wasn't an easy test by any stretch. It was the first time I've done this type of like profiling test with a bunch of different kind of like 4 tests within one long workout. But I already told myself I was doing it, and I was convinced I was doing it. I just wanted to see what the feedback was. And so I think that and then I'll tell you how the test went. But the moral of the story was, I think that I don't think any of the feedback and the advice or the opinions that any coach gave was wrong.
Okay.
I thought they were all correct, right? Push at the end of the week, adjust, don't do it, adjust manually, do it. There was to me, looking as a coach, right? If I had actually been giving that to an athlete that wasn't me, that didn't know myself as an endurance athlete that's been doing this for 20 years, that just inherently knows when I've got it or don't have it, or it's not smart. The thing is they were all right answers. But the only thing that mattered to me, and it wasn't my ego, it was just that I felt that it was the right day, and I felt that I was in a good spot. So again, while none of them were wrong answers, I ultimately knew, even though all the advice was pretty much don't, I already knew I was doing it. I was like already dressed in my cycling gear, about to hop on the bike. It wasn't going to sway me, but it was more of a experiment to see, one, what the feedback would be, which it was all great feedback, and all I thought, again, reasonable to give to an athlete. But I think it's also important to see that I wasn't swayed by any of it. I already knew what I felt like I could do, and I wasn't going to I wasn't going to hop on Google and think, should you do a bike test after being sick but feeling better for 3 days? Enter. And get 19 different. I wasn't going to hop on Facebook. I wasn't going to hop in, a triathlon forum. It was just, I knew that I felt good because I know that feeling. So I did. Got on the bike, warmed up well, did 2 20-second all-out sprints, rested, did a 12-minute all-out, then a 4-minute all at the end, and could not be happier with my results. Felt really, really good about it. Felt like I performed really, really well, especially on my 4-minute interval. And then printed out my results and was pretty happy with it. Nothing was earth-shattering. Adjusted my zones. And then you're probably thinking, well, how'd you feel the next day? Because to me, that was the ultimate answer. Was, am I going to dig myself a hole, right? Because I took that, as I talked about earlier this week, about the last week, I took some days off. What I thought was the best thing was that if you do this, right, which again is what you talked about there for a while, was like, if you do this, think about what are the repercussions that could happen. You're gonna miss a few more days, which I don't have any days to miss. I don't got them. Or you test and you feel good and you get confidence. What do you really feel is going to happen? I generally felt like I was going to test well, and I would be fine the next day. And I believed that. And I woke up the next day. Guess what?
Felt good.
Felt good. Green, and again, HRV was up. Everything was down. I've been green the rest of the week. Felt good the rest of the week. Even improved, I think. So again, the moral of the story isn't that I tested well. The moral of the story is that you, as an athlete, have to know yourself. And you have to own it, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Yes, did I weigh all the decisions? Yes, did I think about, again, like you said, did you really think it through? What's the worst thing because I had already committed to trying the test, but I had also committed to that if I didn't feel well, my heart rate was high. Because again, we've talked about this before. Like, I know when I'm about to get sick because I can tell by my heart rate. I just know. I pay attention. I track things. I know when things aren't going well. So I know when I'm about to make a bad decision or about to get sick. I just do. And it's not rocket science. I'm not special. I just pay attention and think for myself. And so I knew I had a plan B, which was to abort and exit and don't dig a hole. And I think that's another moral of the story is that you have to also be okay adapting if you find out in the middle of this decision that you've made that you were wrong, to adjust. But you also have to own if you think you're right and be like, hey, coach, I just, and you and I get this all the time, daily probably. Hey, coach, I was just feeling it today. And so I ripped it a little bit more than I should. Good for you. Rip it. Because you know what? You rarely ever get those days. Like they happen a handful of times over the course of the year where you just feel good, right?
I know.
You know how it is. Like, and so to tell an athlete not to let it fly, responsibly, also tells them to not listen to themselves. Be a robot. Take the safe way out. Live to fight another day, which is true in some cases, but a lot of times, especially when you train daily, like most athletes do, 360 plus days a year, if you don't let an athlete, again, sometimes make mistakes on their own, right? Or find success in their own, then they're never going to have these experiences in which they can fall back on race day. And it is, I think it is one of the most important skills you can have as an athlete. And I say all that to say this, is that could I have made a huge error? Sure. But I was 100% positive that I was not. And no one else could tell me that but me. No one. Because everybody else that I asked, experienced coaches, great athletes that I've been coaching for years and years and years, probably the internet, probably if I'd have posted on our Crushing Iron Facebook group, everyone would have said, take that off. The moral of the story is that you. And I'm not talking about just when you feel good. I'm also talking about when you feel bad. Because on the other side of the coin are athletes who feel like total crap and know that, but see a workout and feel like they have to do it. The biggest skill set for all athletes is knowing yourself and being confident. And if you fuck up one day and you read yourself wrong, then guess what? The chances of you reading yourself wrong in the future just got less because you just learned.
If
right?
you learned.
You read yourself, you read your body, you read your signals. I mean, I have athletes that say this stuff all the time. I felt off today. Then if you felt off, then you also know what it feels like to feel on. And to me, that is a huge skill to have. I slowed things down today a lot and I cut it short. I just didn't have it today. Best workout of the week. Not only did you set yourself up for success tomorrow, but you listened to your body over everything else, over making the perfect week, over hitting the perfect session, over over being worried about not hitting all your sessions, over being worried your coach is not going to like that you cut a workout short, your fears, your lack of self-confidence, your reservations about being able to race well. You fought back against all those and made the best decision you could make for yourself in that minute and that day. And so there's two sides of the coin, right? Pushing it and knowing when you got it, knowing when you don't. And then being confident in your decision to do that. And I just think that it is you have to think it through, which again, most athletes don't want to do. You don't want to take the time to think it through for whatever reason, right? Oh, let me see if I can just pop into Facebook and ask a question to the masses. Or you could just think through it and come up with your own actual answer that's more applicable to you individually, right?
Yeah.
We've gotten so lazy with our ability to ask 6 billion strangers or see what, Chat GPT or Google is going to tell us than carving out our own journey and making our own decisions each and every day. And you know what? Sometimes you might fuck it up and you might make a wrong decision. But at least you're the only person to blame. And I would much rather blame myself than fall back and blame other people, which is, again, I think why we've kind of gotten into this habit as a society is that if we kind of harvest, 16 billion opinions from the internet or strangers, then we can always just blame them. I just got bad advice. I should never listen to this. I shouldn't. Well, yeah, you're right. You should listen to you. So ultimately, it is on you. But I'd rather be the one that caused it than feel like it, because at least you had ownership over it versus letting someone else dictate the terms of what you need to do each and every day, all the time. Because that's not how training should be, and that is not how race day will be.
Yeah, I got a few thoughts on that, but first I want to know if you said you had a good test.
Yes.
Felt good. You were happy with it. Did you get off the bike and look in the mirror and go, podium?
I did not.
Okay.
Podium is not even like in the realm of possibility.
Hey, you gotta put it.
Unless
nobody shows up.
The 50 people in front of me DNF.
Oh,
that's all, man. So you're telling me there's a chance? No, I got no aspirations of a top anything or a podium. I'm going after one time and one time only, and that time is 10:34. That's it. That's all I care about. And if I don't get it, I don't get it. But I'm training to sneak in under 10:33 and change.
All right.
And that 10:33 might turn into 12:40. But fucking, I'm going for it.
There you go. Well, as you're talking, it reminded me of one of my my other theories, which is the 2 to 3 day delay in how you feel. And I mean, I was just thinking about that because you said you weren't feeling the greatest, and I think sometimes what happens is when we start. I think sometimes that's started by bad habits or whatever, and then when you start to feel bad, then you're like, oh, I got to start doing things right for myself, sleeping right, eating right, doing all that, kind of taking rest and relaxation. So that makes a little sense. I think you're coming out of that you're probably a little bit rested. Maybe your body has kind of been restored a little bit versus like it's interesting. It's sort of like the old, hey coach, I did my bike on a Saturday, but then we had a wedding and I just let it rip last night. And then they can come back and sort of pull together a nice long run on Sunday when they should have probably just chilled a little bit. And then, but it always comes like Monday and Tuesday is when that thing comes crashing down. I just think there's a delay sometimes in, your body is building up and, you might be feeling good, but if you throw some curveballs at it, then it may not hit you right away because you're mentally, powerful enough to go through it, but then it kind of comes back on you after a couple days. And I really think about that kind of stuff because sometimes, how you're like, man, I didn't see this coming. And maybe you said that with you said you felt pretty good. You thought it was going to happen, but sometimes people haven't been feeling the greatest. And then all of a sudden they have a really solid day out of nowhere. And sometimes that can springboard you forward and whatever. But I don't know. I think a belief too, like you just believed it. And for me, that's always a huge factor, You kind of like assessed through it and figured things out and you just believed that you felt that way. And I don't think that can be underestimated,
Because ultimately, we've talked about this a lot when we talk about race preparation and race execution, is that race day is, as much as we want it to be, race day is no different to our bodies than training. And you can put in a session for an athlete and for the next day, and it might be, we'll use the Glenn Robecki 4x8s. It might be a 4x8 interval of 90 to 98% threshold, because you feel like they should be ready to handle that this day and according to the load. But they might wake up and they might feel like absolute trash. Their legs might have nothing. They got nothing, right? Because as a coach, you don't think, all right, here we go. So they're going to feel good this day and this day. But you know what? I think the data says they're probably going to stay out late Wednesday night. They're probably going to have too many margaritas. They're probably going to stay up late watching, University of Wisconsin basketball. They're going to get 5 hours of sleep. They're not going to eat very well. I should probably change that to an active recovery ride. No, you don't plan any of that because you don't know. And a lot of times, neither does the athlete, right? It's like being able to predict what athlete's going to have to stay up late or stay at work late for a last minute presentation. You got no clue. You know why you don't got a clue? Because neither did the athlete. The athlete wakes up and they get on the bike and they get to the warm up and they're like, all right, I'm just going to try this first interval and see what happens. And the interval is either just total complete trash or they see some signs of life.
Yeah.
And so if there's complete trash, then they think, you know what? I'm just going to bag this today. I'm going to spin easy for the duration of the time, and then that'll set myself up better for tomorrow. Or if they see some signs of life, then maybe they started at 200 first. I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling all right. Let me see what I got in the last interval. 205. All right. Let's signs of life. Then I'm pushing again. All right, 210, 220. You know, and then so they hung in and they didn't let the first interval dictate the last one. You know, or they didn't go out late. They got in bed super early because they knew it had a big, you know, bike ride the next day. They ate well, they slept well, they fueled well. They get on the bike, and you know the range is 190 to 220, and they start out at 205, 210, and then 215, and then 220, and the last one we're like, you know what? I feel fucking great today. I'm gonna rip the legs up this one. Bam, 235, last interval. All three of those sessions are perfect examples of race day. Unpredictable, right? Yes, you can slightly predict how you might feel after a late night out or an early night in bed. True, right? You can slightly predict how you're going to feel after great fueling versus poor fueling, right? And so on race day, when your body wakes up and it's ready to go, and you have these expectations, you feel like you have to meet this data point or this previous analysis on how the race is going to go, then you're no longer listening to yourself. You're chasing an expectation or a metric that may be on both ends of the pendulum swing of the day, right? It could be so far away from what you're capable of that day that you ruin your race in the first 5 miles. Or you could be just having one of those days where everything feels easy. And like, I'll never forget, and we talked about it, I think, whenever it happened, the first, I guess, yeah, speaking of, the first like Clash 100 race that they did, and Paula Finley won like going away. And she got done, I think it was the end of 2020 or end of 2021. And she just blew away the field, right? And she got done with the race and she just said, I just, from the moment I got on my bike, I just knew I had it. And it was just one of those days where everything felt easy. And those days only happen really once in a blue moon or once in her career. You think there was any thought in her that said, well, I know I'm feeling it today, but the plan says to only do 260 watts, not the 280 that feels super easy to me right now. I know I shouldn't be running 530s, but damn it feels good. So you know what? Let's slow down. If they catch me, they catch me. I got to work with the plan. No, you ride that wave until it hits the shore. And no different than race day. No different than a workout. No different than a regular training session. It's about your body and it's about listening to it. And some days you'll know it, right? Some days you'll know it from the first pedal stroke. I got it. Or the first stride or the first stroke. You just know you got it. Some days it won't appear till the last 20 minutes, right? Some days, you'll take 2 steps and you'll be like, this is going to be the longest 30-minute run of my life. We've all had those days. 30-minute run seems like 3.5 hours. And then you've had days where 2-hour, rides feel like 45 minutes. There's no way to predict when they're going to happen. Never. And the best you can do, again, is to learn and to teach yourself and to be confident, like you said, in being on your own right track. And because the truth of the matter is that it's always, even daily, even weekly, is going to look like a total roller coaster. Ups, downs, curves, upside downs, lefts, rights, screams, laughs. It's all going to look like that. But the more you try to force things by what other people want to do or what the internet says or what your close. I mean, I can't tell you. It's kind of like a good example of all the shitty advice you get from the random person at the pool. I've never in my life heard more bad advice than what I hear in Training Peaks. Yeah, so-and-so stopped me mid-swim today and told me that I should be doing this. And my next time, snap off their nose plugs and shove them in their ear. No, the worst advice, period. Or, I got somebody asking me, telling me the other day that, hey, I ran into so-and-so and he said, I've got this in a little part of the run that I've got, at this triathlon. And they told me I really need to practice running in the sand. I was like, it's just running, right? Yeah. Well, they're not fucking going to the beach to practice running in the sand. The more you open yourself up to more and more people and their specific advice that is irrelevant, the more you distance yourself from understanding and knowing what it is that you need to do, because you're the only person that really knows what you need to do, period. That's it. And the thing though is that's also where supreme confidence comes in, is I know I can get by with this. I know that I can do this. I know that this will make me feel good. I know that this was the right decision for me today. And it takes a lot of confidence to do that. It's kind of like a weird confidence with like a one part confidence and one part vulnerability, because you're owning it and you're not just doing something just to do it. You're kind of owning it. I know myself, and I have a little bit of confidence I can do this. It also makes the journey a lot more rewarding to do that, and you learn things on the way. It's just I can't emphasize enough to not be a robot, to listen to yourself, and don't become such a slave to hitting every session, missing every session, going high, going low. Be unpredictable, because so is life, so is training, so is racing. And the more you can do that, the better off you're going to be, again, not just as an athlete, right, in decision making and in training and in your overall fitness, but also you're going to be a totally different person on race day. You're going to be confident, you're going to be prepared, you're going to be wise, you're going to be weathered, you're going to be prepared for everything, right? And even if you're not prepared for this specific thing that happens that day, you've prepared yourself every single day in training by making the best decision you can make in the moment for you. Because guess what? At mile 65 of the bike, guess what you can't do? Let me get out my phone real quick and hop on the Ironman Texas Facebook page. Should I up my watts by 20 or should I lower them by 15? Enter. Now let me get 600 strangers to tell me what I should do. Can't do it. You have to make the decision about all things. And again, I think we've gotten just so lazy overall and incapable even of that even being our first thought. Our first thought is not to seek answers within ourselves. Our first thought now is to hit send and ask the universe or search the universe, right? Which is, if we've all turned on the TV or internet lately, is not really full of a lot of great things. So my biggest piece of advice is turn within, listen within, make decisions within, right? You can get guidance and experience from that you can also let, outside experience or voices, you can let some of that filter in, but a lot of times you just have to filter some things in and then let the rest go. You can't take it all in like a waterfall, right? You gotta filter some of it out, and then again make it own, because that just makes everything personal, and it makes it personal to you. And if it's personal to you, then you're more invested.
Truth, man. Well, you said something there: confidence and vulnerability at once, and I think that is huge. It's just I've gone Chattanooga full years ago. I was sick the whole week going into that, and when I got to the race morning, I was so out of it I forgot my timing chip in the hotel. I mean, I was just like, but I knew I was gonna get it done, but I was very my expectations were in check, and I just approached that race from a rational, reasonable perspective. I just wanted to see how it felt as I unfolded, and it ended up being my best time ever in Ironman. So, that's the thing, right? You can wake up and feel good. I've felt really good going in races and kind of stunk, and then felt a little bit vulnerable and not on the mark. And as things unfolded during the day, I just was like, okay, I'm just going to take this and go with it. But I didn't force it. I think forcing the issue based on a feeling beforehand is a little bit dicey sometimes. I know people, even workouts, I feel great today, I'm going to go out and then like a mile later, it's like, shit, I don't have it. So just, you got to kind of, I don't know. I'm just a big believer in warming up your body in a patient manner and letting it, do its thing rather than pushing, shoving something down its throat every day.
Yeah, I mean, like one of cause I think like one of the definition of force when used like a verb is to basically make something do something against their will.
Yeah.
And so if you think about it in that light, then then it makes all the sense in the world. Makes all the sense in the world. Why would I want to force something against my own body's will? Right? Yes, you have to push the needle on race day, but not on, but not in training to extent that it's going to bury yourself. It's just
Exactly.
not. I mean, it's not something you want to do. But you again, sometimes you have to learn it on your own, but you also need to learn like what that feels like, and then what that decision hierarchy is. And I think everyone should have that. Kind of like one of those like those charts people have in their fridge. It's like, do you feel bad? Yes. Are you hungry? Yes. Do you like Reese's? Yes. Eat Reese's. It's like basically everything ends up eating a Reese's no matter what it is. But it's like, should I work out today? Yes. Should I work out hard if I feel bad? No. If I choose not to work out hard, should I still get on the bike? Yes. If I do get on the bike and I feel good after 30 minutes, can I ride hard now? Yes. It's like, but again, even just talking through it, you're like, man, that seems like a lot of work. No, it doesn't. Like think through those things, put your phone down, put Facebook away, put, Instagram away or Marco, Snapchat, and think through it. And it's you, and you'll come up with the best answer for you. Because we'll end it here. It's like literally as we're having this podcast, I got this, I don't know, 3-paragrapher from an athlete that's doing Boston in April. And they asked me the exact type of question that we've talked about today. I mean, it's give them 2 options and basically just say, morning, coach, I'm have a bit of a curveball. I need some advice, yada, yada, yada. Gives me 2 great options. And of course, the last paragraph always starts with, of course, I'm probably overthinking this, which is probably normal as race day approaches. And I just said, I'm not answering this. Make your best decision just like you will during Boston. You're a smart athlete. Make the choice that makes the most sense to you. And they responded, somehow I guess you'd say that. And he said, will do. And I said, tell me the right option now. You have 1 minute. And he said, option. And he said, option 2. And I said, exactly. And then they just said, yes, I probably knew that before I texted. Yeah, you did. I know. And the more it's like, I get it. Like you want to hear that you're right. And a lot of athletes want that and they look for that, right? But you also want them to be confident in that they're making their right decision, in that if it doesn't go well, then you'll let them know. Because it's just one workout. But if you can have an athlete make that decision, right? Not, hey, I made the swap because I feel like it would be a good switch today. Then have at it. I'm proud of you. Good switch.
Yeah. Good call, man.
Good call. And so instead of reaffirming the need for them to ask you to affirm their inquiries or their questions or doubts, you instead, when they make these decisions on their own without reaching out to you, you simply get to reaffirm that they were right. Their gut was right. Their intuition was right. Their decision making is right. And that is super powerful. And while it might sound, annoying to some athletes, it's the best way to teach people and to gain confidence, because again, like we're not going to be there on race day. We're just not. Right. And, and what athletes pay you for? They pay you to get healthy and to get happy and to rip it on race day. So part of that is to putting them in that position. And so, yeah, to me, it's better for the coach and the athlete to reaffirm a great change and a great decision and applauding their autonomy and their independence on knowing themselves the best and affirming that, than affirming that you always need to come to me with the question of what's going to be right and what's going to be wrong. Because I'm not always going to be there. And the athlete won't always be able to ask. So learn that and make that decision and then applaud it as the coach. And if they make a wrong decision, then you simply say, right, lesson learned, try to do better next time. That's it. Because if you, again, it's so much like parenting. If you make all these bad decisions for athletes, like we were leaving the hockey rink last week, and I knew Hayden left his stick in the locker room, heading out to the ice. It's game 2 of the tournament. This a couple weeks ago, and I knew he left his stick in the locker room because I was in the locker room with him. Walked out, he makes it all the way to the bench, and I said, "All right, man, have fun," and just let him. And then he finally realized that he left his stick, and he was like, "Dad, can you get my stick?" And I said, "No, you can go get it." Easiest thing for me to do would have been, "Hey, don't forget your stick, buddy." But I'm totally enabling him to not have to think about all his responsibilities of what he needs to do to get ready to play his own game. Because I won't always be in the locker room. He needs to be prepared. Even as a 7.5-year-old, he needs to be prepared and responsible for his own stuff and being prepared for his game. His mind has to be in the place, even though he's ready for a game, ready to have fun. I still need a freaking stick to play hockey. And while it's hard sometimes, again, as a parent to make things take longer because you're trying to teach them a lesson and teach them to be more aware, it saves you time in the future, because instead of having to always be the one to remind them to go grab a stick, or I'll go get it for you, or I'll go do that for you, they then start doing it themselves. And then eventually, if they forget it, they won't even ask, let's go get it themselves. So in the early part, it is a lot more work, but it eventually pays off for both you and the child, which is also pays off for you as the coach and the athlete in the future.
Good stuff, man.
Good stuff. Moral of the story, don't forget your stick. It's needed for hockey.
Don't forget your stick.
And don't forget your stick. That is it. As always, we love you guys. We appreciate you. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. If you're out there racing, go get it. Have a good time. Rip it. Race smart. Put forth your best effort, and leave the rest at home. As always, if you need anything, go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike, he is available at mike@c26triathlon.com. If you need anything from me specifically, I am at robbie@c26triathlon.com.
All right, man. I will catch you next week sometime.
See you then, dude.
All right, see you.